Okay, then let's get started with actually modeling our piece. There's only one thing I would like to adjust, and that is trying to bring my sketch planes down so that the lowest blue line, which represents the lower part for my iron, actually uh, matches up with my ground plane. Okay, great. So I'm resetting my cursor, and then I start with adding a cube. And I can scale this cube and, for example, in a side view, move this one up a little bit. I know I'm working only with half a model, so from here I already can press Ctrl R, add loop cut, enter 0. So the loop cut is entered right at the center of that cube. Press enter, and then I delete those points. Let me also turn on the screencast keys so you see all the different keys I'm actually clicking. And then maybe in this view I start pushing, pulling this a little bit. And those actually I move up so they line up with my sketch lines that represent actually the upper part of my model, or the plastic body, not the metal part. Those maybe can go down a little bit. And everything I do here right now is very preliminary, because I know the moment I start turning on the subdivided surface modifier, it's going to look somewhat different anyway. This one, for example, I think I can extrude and then move these points to there. This one maybe I move over, yeah, to there. And this model has a small kink down here, so I can actually maybe try to block this one in already. Here is an arc, so let me first adjust actually this. So I go over, maybe this go over a little bit. Okay, very, very basic. Oh, there are two faces. Those I delete. And then let's add a modifier. Okay, good. So I'm going to step by step now maybe try to see how I have to adjust my geometry. And don't try to be too particular about matching your geometry at the beginning, because we have to add some loop cuts during the modeling process, and that will always change, for example, the look and feel. So for example, you can see how in the front part this is really rounded, but I want to get down to this corner, so I know I need to have another loop cut there. So instead of trying to move all these points over, I know when I add loop cut, actually that starts tightening that part for me already, like this, there. Great. Okay, so let's see. Maybe in top view, I can move this one over. No, actually I do not move this one over, I move this one in, because this way I can build the sharp front part. But this also means, as you can see now here, my sketch arc actually sticks out. So somewhere here, this part, for example, I would like to move this direction, but I do not really have any point to click on, so that means also here I need to add another loop cut. And also from the top view, this is very linear, and it should maybe be more like this. So also here I need to add a loop cut because I'm inserting points. So maybe there. Okay, so with those points, for example, added, I start to deselect those points at the center because I do not want to move them. And then I move those out. And actually here, this one, I do not want to move. And maybe those. And let's take a look from the front. And we can see, for example, that if I add a mirror modifier, my model seems to be very flat here, but in my original sketch, you can see how nicely I sketched it. So it goes down that way. So that means I have to adjust my model a little bit, and all I need to do is actually maybe select these points and then press G and Z and just move them down a little bit. Like this. Yeah. Let's take a look at the site. There, for example, I can see that partially my model does not really represent the sketch, so I have to adjust my control points a little bit. So here, this one I rotate a little bit. You notice that I was actually rotating those lines, and that's simply, think about, for example, this line I'm marking. And those two dots, I would like to be perpendicular to it. That's the reason why I rotated it. And it's the same like with this sketch line and those points there, that should be perpendicular. And the main reason for that is simply I try to maintain that those faces and how from here they are generating curves, that those curves are actually somewhat consistent. Maybe you go inwards a little bit. Yeah, okay. My model actually, I decided to give it a slight arced back. I can easily do that type with just a 3-point system. This one here actually I have to move back. Okay, yeah, that doesn't look too bad. Those points I know actually have to go inwards a little bit more. And I would like that crease to be a little bit stronger, so I add a loop cut there. And with this loop cut, you can see if I started pushing in that surface. And maybe with another loop cut back here, I can push this one out. And look how beautiful that looks. Okay. And that's not too bad. And then with this one based, for example, how much I push this one out, I can kind of like arc that surface. Or I push it back so it does not. I could even go the reverse. I push it in so that it's a little bit concave. Yut. So inside the sketch, right here, this is straight, and then actually this arcs. So to do this, I need extra geometry points. So Alt H, showing my object again. So let's see, yeah, well, I need a geometry point there again. So let's see what I can do. Maybe I press K to start my knife, and then I press Control. And with Control, it snaps to the midpoint of an edge. Maybe I just only make a small cut there, and then let's see what happens if I push this one down, if this is actually already sufficient. Because I don't necessarily want to have to add loop cuts in the upper part, because I like that arc already. Maybe I add one further cut there, and then I play with my highlights to see if, yeah, see, it changed it a little bit right here, there. Yeah, no, I leave it there. That's fine. And maybe let's go to display, matcap. Let's use a different material. Yeah, those are better to use to visualize, for example, how highlights are flowing over. And actually, they are noticed. Something down here is happening. So maybe I just, with my knife tool, have to suck it down and add some extra points. And there you notice now this highlight actually here is much better now. So yeah, I just need in this position to have a complete loop cut. The main reason for having like a complete loop cut is simply that it subdivides the surface more evenly. And if I do not do that, then it can happen that the surface starts to pinch a little bit. But then that also means because I added the loop cut or the knife tool, I flatten that surface. So I have to move those points out a little bit to get that original curvature back. Now, beginning of next week, we are going to work actually with the Blender version I have also here, and not the one we have installed on the PCs. Now, at this point, I would like to move over along this edge. So I could press G and then press G again. And then I immediately switch into something that's called vertex slide. And you can see that I can move this point along neighbor edges. So it's very easy to move this point closer to this one by actually just going straight to it. And then I even out the distances here a little bit. And maybe here the same, GG. So instead of typing in spacebar and then slide, I just press the button G twice. Great. So this looks actually, I would say, pretty good. Maybe the top one can be arced out a little bit more. I took a look at my reference object and it seems to be a little bit more rounded. And yeah, okay. So that would be, for example, the first step for creating the iron. And let's pay attention to maybe one last thing. I noticed something else happening here. I'm not sure if my eye maybe fools me, but it looks to me that this rounding here is a little bit bigger than here. And that's basically this angle is much sharper than this angle, sorry. So I might maybe have to adjust this a little bit by hand. I simply, maybe those points, can move them up a little bit. Yeah, yeah. No, I just leave it this way. That's fine. Okay,